Hello, Guy.
Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello.
Joe.
Hi.
Hi, Dennis. Okay.
Peter, hi. Joe,
Hello, Joe. Jerry.
hi.
Yes.
See you.
Let's wait some more minutes to see if Oda will join us.
How's the weather in Italy?
It was good today. Was the sun almost springtime. Yeah, yeah,
No, next month.
yeah.
The sun, isn't it?
In Austria, there was much snow in Austria. It's
Snow.
now very much snow in Austria.
Oh,
I think a new ice age is coming. Yes, a new ice age.
it
30
could be.
centimeters of snow
Oh my God.
today.
Yeah, but also here, also in Italy, all the mountains are white. A lot of snow came
Yes.
down on the mountains, not on
Well,
the flat, but on the mountain, yes.
Well, we've had a huge snow here, but fortunately, rain has finally come and washed most of it away. But it shut down Washington for almost a week because of the ice on top of the snow.
Ooh.
Joe, do you build snowmen?
I could have built a very large one.
I used to space workshops in schools, and when I did that around this sort of time of the year, I would ask the pupils if any of them had ever built a snowman, and hands would go up. And I'd say, well, here's something that I built in the snow outside my house a few years ago. And it's a photo of a snow version of a Saturn V rocket, several feet high.
Well, 60 years ago, I was in Iran on top of a mountain, 3,000 meters high, in December, with oil drilling with Agip, Italian. And we had a nice weather until mid-December, sunny and great. And then we had a storm. And the next day, we had 5 meters of snow.
Gui, please stay a little bit far from the microphone.
Okay, so now okay.
It is saturating, you know.
Bon.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I remember
And so during the night, I heard all the bad words that you can have in the Italian language.
I can have it in Italian language. And the body room that you can have. I don't understand what you mean.
No, because we had a snowstorm, and one day we had, it was in high mountain with Agip.
I see.
And I was sharing bungalow with the head of Agip, an Italian manager, and during the whole night we had snow falling, and the next morning we had 5 meters of snow.
5 meters, oh my God.
Yeah, that was something. And what I say is because I was sharing a bungalow with the head of the drilling operation of Agip, I heard all the bad words that you can have in the Italian language.
Okay. Le parolacce, of course.
we don't get that much snow in the UK. I mean, they get more up in Scotland where they have all the big mountains. But I remember in the winter of 1963, that was known as the Big Freeze.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of snow, and I was 8 years old at the time. And I remember digging tunnels through the snow in my back garden.
Oh God. Yeah. Quite amusing. I think very much fun. Yes.
Talking of Italy, though, I think we should congratulate them on a wonderful staging of the Olympics and
Yes.
their amazing performance.
Yeah.
Of the Italian athletes.
Yes. The women, particularly the women, made a very good score of medals. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think that the whole activity seems to have been very well managed, particularly as it's taking place in several different venues. It's a very good show.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not following it very much because I'm okay. However, yeah, I think we can maybe start this meeting. As you know, the scope of this meeting. Okay, let me just put on the WhatsApp the invitation because maybe somebody could have lost missed the invitation. Members. Okay.
Well, while you're doing that, I think I will just do a brief report because this is sort of a stand-in for the Living in Space and committee or committee.
Joe, I'm sorry. Can you just raise a little bit your volume?
Okay.
Because we hear you low, very low.
Okay. Oh, it's too loud, you're saying.
Yeah, better.
Okay.
No, now it's better.
Okay. Well,
and I think we can start with your information, if you like, about the publication. You wanted to give some news, correct?
Right. There are two initiatives involving Living in Space. One of them is a special issue of the Frontiers in Space Technology, and we have a series of articles. I can send you the full list, but right now we have 9 articles that have been submitted. I think 6 or 7 have completed the full review process, and there will probably be more than 10 articles in that Living in Space edition of the Frontiers in Space Technology. In addition to that, we are doing a book, and you, Adriano, and you, Pter, are 2 of the contributors. But there will be, at this point, 16 chapters, and I will share with Adriano just to maybe put on the website the full outline of who the contributors are from around the world. But we have really a remarkable group of people who are writing on every aspect of everything from space elevators and nuclear propulsion based spacecraft to space elevators to terraforming Mars. And it's basically called The Future of Living in Space by our press.
The space elevator sounds uplifting.
Well, it is.
I'm glad you said that.
By the way, I think we have Peter Swan with us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Joe's objective is very bold and aggressive, and I really salute him for bringing the diverse topics to the book. And my question to you, Joe, is you keep saying June as the publishing date. Will it be out when the SRI Congress is convened? You know, can we reference it and talk about it then?
Well, and we can talk about it, but it will not be out. In other words, I hope to finish my part of it by the end of March. We have something like 9 chapters into some form of final drafting, and there are 3 that are promised by the end of the month, but there are 2 in particular that won't come in till sometime in March. And that I've been told by the people at Springer that even if we were to finish everything by end of March, that they could not produce anything by June, that it probably be more like July or August. But the point is, we tried to do that, but their turnaround is more like 4 to 5 months on production, unfortunately.
That's fine. We should have 2 papers in the Congress, and so we'll reference the document, but not have a publishing information.
Right. So that's all I have
Okay.
to report, unless there's other questions, and so we can turn it over to Adriano and Jerry.
Okay, so I think we can start. You know that the scope of this meeting is to discuss about the key purpose of the Island Zero project. Island Zero is a project conceived by Jerry. I think he started to work on that in 2005. Please correct. No? Before
2013.
13. So
Yes.
the information that I have found are wrong, as often
Okay.
happens.
That's all right.
Okay. However, yes, we had a small difference in our understanding of the key purpose of this project. I think we agree that it is a research project. The Island Zero is a demonstrator, is a small demonstrator of the concept, the on-air concept of Island One. Even if the on-air concept of Island One were different shapes, cylindrical, spherical, and other thing, but also torus. Therefore, we are in that line, let me say, and even more in the line of the wheel, of the space wheel, that was presented by Werner von Braun in the 50s, in the early 50s, and before that was conceived by in the 1928 and 29 by Nordung and another guy also. But I have a slide for that, so I hope that we can put together the correct history and references. So sorry. So this is a research project. So the scope, the main scope is to make research and to validate something. Validate understanding what is the effect of simulated gravity on the human physiology. Understanding what is the best relationship between rotation speed and dimension in order to stay inside the so-called comfort zone, to avoid being disturbed by the Coriolis effect and this kind of things. And we also want to experiment some lower levels of simulated gravity, for instance, 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, or even the moon gravity and the Mars gravity. So it would be yeah, as Jerry already showed in his design, we have a peripheral ring which should be 1G, and several internal rings, let's say rings, even if they are only one or two modules for each level, to simulate different levels of simulated gravity. So where is the small disagreement, let me say?
Just 1 second.
I'm sorry. Let me.
Okay.
Yes, I know that also we have the Volodia project.
No, but that's not what I was talking about. You mentioned a research project, but last year, spacewoman Elaine Collins said that if we would go in the Apollo-Soyuz spirit again, we could have Island 1 and Volodia and all that by the year 2030 instead of making stupid wars.
Yes, of course, of course. That is always true, of course, and it's not to be discussed. However, let me say the very small difference between the Jerry definition and my definition is this one: that Jerry wrote that among the scopes of the experimentation is to understand what is the optimal level of gravity, intending that it could even be less, it could be less than 1G. It could be 0.8, 0.7 or so. I disagree with this because I think the optimal level of gravity is 1G. That is what human physiology is used since thousands of years and millions of years and so on. Therefore, I think that we should, however, keep the 1G simulated gravity as our main goal of experimentation, and to understand what is the best dimension and rotating speed parameters in order to get in the comfort zone. And okay, I will show some slides that I think we are in the comfort zone with the dimension that Jerry has imagined, around 200 meters diameter. We can be with the 2 rounds per minute. We can be in the comfort zone with that dimension. Okay, so what I would like to do is to present some slides where I give my motivations to say that 1G is mandatory, is a key requirement, and we can add other lower gravity levels, but we should have 1G for sure. I'm sorry. Yeah. So what I would like to be written is that the main scope is to experiment simulated gravity, the 1G simulated gravity, and other levels, gravity levels for particular needs. That could be medical, industrial, or sport and entertainment and tourism and other things. So I think that this should be the best definition of the scope of the project. But if you allow me, I will go to show some slides. I have, let me say, this is an anticipation of one of my Congress papers. That of course it will be very much better shaped because now it was made in a rush. But okay, so let me show. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So title is why 1G simulated gravity is mandatory, and the presentation will cover why space and why now. Sorry, I have to admit somebody entering. Okay. The choices, available choices, where to live in space, physiological and social requirements, the damages to human health caused by long unprotected staying in space, freedom and human rights, bidirectional migration, Coriolis effect and optimal rotation speed size, and bidirectional tourism. So why space and why now? But for us, it is almost trivial. We well know about this that we are almost 8.5 billion people on one only planet, increasing anthropic pressure. We urgently need space expansion to sustain humanity's future. And Earth's environmental and social deterioration prompts moving beyond our planet, and we shall do it now. While the historic and technology launch window is still open, such a window could close, and we could be forbidden to step to the stars forever. So, among the Moon, Mars, and habitats in free space, these last are preferable. As written by Gerard O'Neill in The High Frontier, Human Colonies in Space. The Moon and Mars have limited ground for human settlements. The enormous quantity of asteroid resources allow the building of virtually unlimited habitats floating in free space. Self-sustaining, rotating orbital worlds designed to simulate Earth's gravity, focus on human well-being, freedom, and creativity in space environment. So Gerard O'Neill is alive. Why I take Gerard O'Neill? Because Gerard O'Neill not only made a beautiful scientific work, but he also brought a lot of philosophy in his book High Frontier. So it's not just the design of an habitat; it is very much more, giving us a vision of what it could be our future in rotating habitats. Not just survival in space, but thriving, beautiful, and free human civilization. Main advantages: simulated gravity for human health and physiological needs, sunlight energy continuously available. The habitat can be moved away from incoming killer cosmic objects. We are a lot of scientists and philosophers as conceived this kind of solution, including Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. So maybe Tsiolkovsky could have been the very first, but
Adriano.
Yes.
This is my work. Konstantin, I worked on Tsiolkovsky, on Nordung, Potocznik, Werner von Braun. This line, which come from the 1920s, and the whole discussion. This was not only about design or engineering, but also about philosophy, about art, and enthusiasm, and so on. And this is my work. Do you want to? Okay, if you want now
okay,
to
work
on it.
No. Listen, I'm trying to put together everything in order not to forget any author that has.
To be done. You say here to be done. It's okay.
Yes. So I mentioned Konstantin. I have
interject that.
I have mentioned Tsiolkovsky, but I was not able so far to find the correct references. Therefore, is to be investigated.
Yes, you can look in my webinar series I gave to you, and you were there. Yes, I do not understand this whole work here. No.
Okay.
I had the chance many years ago to visit the house of Tsiolkovsky in Kaluga, and it is impressive to see in which conditions he was working.
Could I just interject that Herman Nordung and Herman Potocznik are the same man? That's just three votes.
Yes.
So we should put both.
Yes, it's the same person. It's the same person.
Confuse everyone.
Okay.
So, okay.
Nordung and Herman Potocznik are the same person.
Oh, really?
Nordung is the pen name, just. Nordung is the pen name of Potocznik. It's the same person.
Okay, that's my ignorance.
Okay. Yeah.
And the publication was not at 1929, but 28. This was followed by the publication. Okay, I don't speak anymore.
Never mind.
Oy.
It's useful to correct the errors. Okay.
Ja, klar. It is now your work, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to to find correct references everywhere. And so we have Werner von Braun, 1952. We have Arthur Clarke in 54. Dandridge Cole, the macro life curve.
But this is also not correct, because Werner von Braun had a lot of variants, a lot of proposals, not only this from 1952. And therefore, I ask you, please let me, the publisher of this story, because I worked on this topic, the early history of space.
Sorry, can I just interject, please?
Yeah, sure.
Adriano has said that he has put this together in a fairly short space of time. So I'm sure, he has said that it will need updating, but can we please leave all the comments until much later and give him the opportunity to make his presentation, and then we'll discuss it?
Sure.
Rather than having all these interruptions.
Thank you very much. And of course, I will be very happy to receive all of your comments for improving the history of the.
Ja, klar, natürlich. Ich glaub's ja nicht.
Okay, so benefits of space habitats, simulated gravity, continuous sunlight and mobility, enhanced safety from cosmic hazards, radiation protection, beauty, green and waters, joy, creativity, love of form, and the pursuit of happiness. And so we need to make a clarification. We are discussing about requirements for what? When discussing space habitats requirements, we are not talking about astronauts. We are talking about space settlers, living and working in space, long-time resident inhabitants, people endowed with full human rights, life, health, and reproduction warranted by proper technology solutions. And not only, also legal conditions and everything. Any comparison among astronautic exploration missions, maximum 1 year, and civilian space settlement, long-time residence, is inappropriate. So they are completely different from the point of view of the human rights and the health conditions and everything, reproduction and so on. I think this is important to be clarified to avoid confusions and confused discussions. This table was made by me a few years ago for an article that I wrote for the U.S. International Mensa Global Risk, and it is the difference. It explains the difference between 3 levels of requirements for space exploration, for space tourism, and for space settlement. As you see, these requirements, low acceleration, safe entering atmosphere, comfortable flight, cosmic radiation protection, simulated gravity, green environment, are increasing of importance while we move from space exploration, short missions, toward space settlement, working in space and living in space. In this part, the space settlement, basically all of these requirements are extremely mandatory, while in the other situation are less important, let me say. So, okay, we have health and economics 3 levels. One is space exploration, short missions, trained astronauts. Space tourism, very short duration, civilian low trained tourists. medium requirements, and space settlement, long-staying civilian untrained travelers and residents, health and ergonomic requirements very high. So the physiological and social requirements were the main focus of Gerard O'Neill's design of rotating space colonies. O'Neill required 1G simulated gravity because it simultaneously preserved human biology, natural social behavior, natural social behavior, intergenerational development, and economic practicality. This made 1G not a preference, but a mandatory condition for his vision of truly human life beyond Earth. So the basic freedom requirements were considered equally important. If settlers will be used to less than 1G gravity, they couldn't exercise these fundamental human rights should they change their mind about space migration and wanted to return living on Earth. That strikes at the ethical and political foundations of O'Neill's space colony vision. Freedom, both physical and personal, is deeply linked to the gravity environment the colonists would live under. For O'Neill, maintaining 1G simulated gravity was not just a matter of health or habitability, it was a principle of liberty and human rights. A colony whose inhabitants physically cannot return to Earth would violate one of his central ambitions, that humanity's expansion into space increase freedom and not diminish it. So here are some quotes from the High Frontier, page 46. We do not want to make emigration into space a one-way trip without the option of return at will. And the colonies must be places where choice and opportunity are expanded, not restricted. The High Frontier, page 182. I put references to different editions because it was very hard for me to find the correct references because there are a lot of editions of this book. And yeah, this is one that I have, and I also have an Italian version. And I realized that it is different from some PDF other editions that we can find on the web. However, these two sentences are there more or less on all the editions, so we can be sure that they are correct. Okay, so reversibility and voluntary relocation between space and Earth, simulated gravity ensures health and preserves autonomy. Then O'Neill also discussed the two-way tourism requirement. Ultimately, if the L5 civilization nears maturity and the Earth's population is stabilized, we can expect, in analogy with similar situation on Earth, that a two-way tourist trade will become an important part of the economic picture. We can be almost certain that such will be the case when we realize that in each passing decade, the cost of transport in constant dollars will decrease as technology advances. So also this is taken from the High Frontier, page 252. Yeah, exactly from this edition. That is the Library of Congress cataloging, etc. Bidirectional tourism. Freedom of migration is not the only rationale for 1G mandatory requirement. The O'Neill Bible, the High Frontier, Human Colonies in Space, also mentioned a key industrial sector that will expand proportionally to human settlement in the solar system tourism. Tourism, two ways. Earthly citizens will want to visit the settlements, and the settlers will like to visit Earth. The tourism industry will be a key pillar of the solar society economy. We definitely don't want visitors coming to Earth from space communities to have an uncomfortable experience due to Earth's gravity. Then O'Neill also discusses requirements for elderly and particular medical needs. What of the elderly? Here on Earth, with age and the infirmities of age, the body must spend more and more of its reserves of energy in simplifying gravity. In the institutions to which many elderly people migrate, a great deal of the equipment one sees is devoted to the single task of assisting the body in its eternal battle with gravity. In contrast, we can imagine that in a space habitat, anyone with difficulty in walking will spend most of his time at a high elevation where gravity will be reduced. Yeah, here O'Neill writes a high elevation because he has in mind the cylinder or the sphere where the Ig is the hub, the zero gravity center of the cylinder or the sphere. Therefore, he say high. Those who would be confined to bed on Earth could have freedom of movement in a region of near zero gravity. Cardiovascular ailments are among the major causes of death for the elderly. In space, we can expect that people with problems of circulation can move to low gravity regions and there enjoy freedom of movement and moderate, non-tearing exercise. In summary, it seems quite possible that people in a space habitat will live to a greater age than they would on Earth. Perhaps it is even more important that their later years could be spent in conditions of far greater freedom and independence than their physical condition would permit them on our planet. So this is exactly what Jerry conceived in his project, to have lower levels of simulated gravity to allow particular conditions for elderly or for people with some diseases. And then also O'Neill discusses about human requirements: beauty, fun, entertainment, and sports. We have talked of the necessities of life, but if we are to work and live in space by choice and enjoy doing so, we will ask for more. The age-old human desires of comfort, good food to eat and good wine to drink, room to stretch our legs, good places to swim and to get a suntan, variety in travel and amusement. We humans have definite ideas of our needs for enjoyment and amusement, and any successful space community will have to accommodate them. So, yeah, we can see that O'Neill has discussed all the points, the important point relevant for our project. Including the Coriolis effect and the optimal minimum diameter and maximum rotating speed of a rotating colony. On ACE, 1 RPM and 1 kilometer radius rule is the cornerstone of all later rotating habitat studies, like Kalpana, Stanford Torus, and present-day NASA artificial gravity evaluations. His approach to the Coriolis effect was both quantitative and human-centered. Large enough to feel like Earth, slow enough that you forget you're spinning. I'm sorry. Okay. The above are theoretical values, never experimented so far. The first goal of Horizon Zero is to experiment and validate or invalidate these values. Up to 2 RPM should be no problem for residents and require little adaptation by visitors. Up to 4 RPM should be no problem for residents, but will require some training and or a few hours to perhaps a day of adaptation by visitor. Up to 6 RPM is even more disturbing, of course, and up to 10 RPM adaptation has been achieved with specific training. However, the radius of a settlement of at these rotation rates is so small, under 20 meters for 7 RPM, it's hard to imagine anyone wanting to live there permanently, much less raise children. So what I can see in this table is that we have two lines, one that defines the comfort zone with 222 meters, that's not very much different from the Jerry dimension of 200 meters diameter, and 2 RPM. and an ideal near perfect simulation, 900 meters and 1 RPM. And of course, all the bigger dimensions and slower rotating speeds is better, going to the better, let me say, because if you go to 0.47 RPM in a 4,000 meter habitat, you will probably not be noticed that you are rotating. So I took several of this. I took this data from a Globus document that he discusses exactly all of these conditions for rotating habitats. A very interesting document paper. And okay, this is Scott Kelly. He spent 1 year on board the ISS, having very serious problem when he came back on Earth. He had the circulation problems. Sorry, it's very hard for me to talk, but I will try to go to the end. And yeah, there are reports on the Scott Kelly health situation after returning to Earth after one year, and also there are some changes that were probably never recovered. Then we have psychological and social well-being, designing for mental health and social life, habitats with private spaces, common areas, gardens, and weight and water features. Psychological resilience is vital as a physical safety. Living in space shall be better than living on Earth. And yeah, okay, these slides come from my one of my recent presentation at Corpus, where I have talked about a beautiful life in space and flamboyance and so on. Okay, I will not expand very much today on these points. Okay, in human era, the urgency of experimentation is clear also from the Al Globus paper. Al Globus only focuses on 1G simulated gravity in full agreement with the on-air recommendations. Globus also reports about different studies on the theme of Coriolis comfort zone at 1G and notes that they are not in agreement. So he found several references about this thing and noted they are not in agreement. So why? Because they are all of them are hypotheses, and that reconfirms the extreme urgency to kick off experimentation. Going to the end, Island 0 is a small-sized demonstrator of Island 1. Its main purpose is scientific research for civilians mainly and for astronauts also. For civilians, 1G earthly gravity in space to investigate how human physiology reacts to simulated gravity, validating the Coriolis comfort zone at 1G simulated gravity, and reduced gravity levels 09, 08, 07, and so on, assessing optimal gravity levels for particular needs, medical, industrial, sports, and entertainment. And for astronauts, experimenting and validating training gravity levels for Moon and Mars missions, experimenting and validating training gravity levels for other missions. Other possible scopes of civilian uses for Island 0, hotel and restoration modules for space tourism, laboratory modules for industrial processes experimentation, hospital modules for curing of particular diseases. Okay, so this is all by me. Just allow me a few seconds, need some water. Just.
Mm.
Hi, everyone. I'm just curious why Adriano is getting water. Put your hand up.
He's
Put your
not
hand.
very well.
I know. I could
Yeah.
see, poor thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask a question. I want to get an idea of who agrees or not agree. It's not a right or wrong. It's just interesting. So my question is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about it. So my question is, put your hand up, your icon, if you agree that 1G is mandatory to live a long-term presence in space. I'm just interested to see who concurs with that statement. So if you concur that 1G is necessary to live in space for long-term or on a planet's surface, put your hand up.
I think
You
in the
reply-
long run, it's necessary 1G. 1G is mandatory in the long run.
Yeah, but when you say, so my question is, so let me reiterate. Put your hand up if you agree that 1G is mandatory to live long-term in space or, long-term presence in space and on a planet's surface like Moon and Mars. So do you think,
Not on a
no, it's
planet's
just a
surface.
question.
Not on a
So-
planet's surface.
On
Okay,
Moon or
so-
Mars, it is not possible. It's not possible on Moon or Mars.
That's the whole point.
Okay, so I'm just asking a question here,
Yes,
everyone.
I
Just
know.
again, I'm being very scientific. I'm curious. So I'll ask again then. Put your hand up if you agree that 1G is a mandatory necessity to thrive long-term presence in space. That's all I'm asking.
Sorry,
Hey.
let me
Hey.
put a clarification on that. It is very much important that people know what they are choosing.
Mhm.
This is the concept of human right and freedom.
Right. So I
if
kept
you
it
choose-
very, very narrow,
If I
Adriano. If you
if-
listen to my question, I kept it very narrow. So I'll say it again. And so my question is,
Yes,
I'm
I
just
got your
curious.
question. I
Right.
got your
So
question.
so I'll repeat it again and put your hand up if you agree that it is mandatory. That's the key. It's mandatory to have 1G for long-term presence in space. That's all I'm saying. I didn't qualify to be, I mean, at the beginning I did, but I didn't qualify to say, oh, it's going to be on a different, on a planet. So I'm just saying long-term presence in space. If it's mandatory for 1G. That's my question. I'm just curious from a medical standpoint.
I think it's not mandatory.
No, it cannot be mandatory because otherwise we cannot live on Mars on the Moon, of course.
Yes.
But
Right,
it
but
is
you wrote in
sorry,
your-
I'm sorry, Susan, sorry. The point is freedom and that you know what you are choosing and you are
Right.
not deported in a situation that you didn't know that you cannot come back. This is
No,
the
no,
human
that's
right.
not my question. You
understand,
wrote
but you
in
cannot.
your first slide,
Okay.
Adriano, you
May I
wrote 1G
change?
is mandatory.
May
So
I
that's why
change?
I'm asking this question.
Of course, but may I change your question in a more reasonable way? It is mandatory that in a free space habitat we should have 1G. This is the correct question. Of course, we cannot have 1G on Mars or Moon. But if we
Right.
make O'Neill rotating habitats, on those habitats, we should have 1G. This is my point.
Okay, I get your point, but then your presentation, your beginning of your slides is it mandatory for, I'm asking that question. I'm just curious here in this cohort, who agrees that 1G is mandatory to live long term or permanently in space? That's just my question. There's not a right or I'm just curious.
Well, I would say yes, and that is why I think that we should choose to have on-air rotating habitats and to live, and only go on a surface of planets to work. in shifts, then it could be a solution. If we think that it is a very important thing. But I repeat that if one chooses to live at Mars gravity or moon gravity, should be free to do it, provided that he knows what he is choosing. He knows
Well,
that he will
I think
never come back to Earth. That is the point.
Well, first of all, we already know where you stand, right, Adriano? So that's not because you presented it. Well, I'm just curious for the rest of the community here. What is your thought? I'd like to hear your thought. And yes, there is what we call gravity prescription dosing when you're on a planet's surface. So that is something that, you know, the medical community, space medicine is working on. But that's not my question. My question was, well, I already said the question, so we know your stance, Adrianos. I'm curious of this community. I'd like to have some thoughts, feedback.
This is Peter Swan, and I do not have any real expertise in the area, but as a space expert, my answer is yes, we'll probably end up with 1G, but we do not know the answers. We do not. And what we have to do is we have to proceed with a program where we aggressively go for a rotating habitat. I believe in that tremendously. I believe we need humanity to move off planet, be in a rotating activity. But between now and then, we ought to really do some research to determine whether it's 1 or 0.95 or 1.02. You know, as an old person, I'd really like to get some stress off my knees and stuff. So, you know, there are so many factors. But yes, let's go ahead and start with 1G. But we've got a lot of research to do between now and then.
Okay. Adriano, should I give some information about how I came up with the whole idea of Island Zero? I think that might be useful to some people.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
But there, Amelia, or somebody called Anadi, has her hand up for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I can see that. Go on.
Oh, okay. All right. Just quickly, when you say mandatory, it seems as though that's the goal, but not the lower gravity levels is not the goal. On the other hand, you might find that the experimental programs, laboratory programs, and so on, they would probably be more interested in not necessarily 1G, but low gravity experimentation because, you know, low gravity can enable a lot of applications. You wouldn't necessarily need full gravity, you need something in the middle. So I just wanted to point out that there's a kind of time frame here and a goal. But you might, I mean, I see you also have mentioned at the end, but you might want to qualify that a bit. It's just because of the more immediate applications might be low gravity applications rather than.
If I can reply on Adriano's behalf, his view is that 1G is mandatory for the general living population, but there's no reason why a structure couldn't allow, by some means or other, sections that would have lower values of gravity for scientific experiments.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah, I understand that. It's a human rights issue.
His view is purely what should be the situation for the overall general population on a day-to-day basis. Okay.
Yeah, it's a human rights perspective that Adriano is bringing in here, but I just wondered whether it might be framed slightly differently because of the sort of the time thing.
All right. Well, I'd say that's a minor issue as to the framing. Okay. So
can I please interrupt before you, Jerry? You said I should wait until Adriano has come to an end with his presentation, and frankly, I'm really a bit shocked because as Adriano and me were in Vienna, Adriano doesn't know anything about Nordung and Hermann Potocznik. I showed him and you all the pictures, and also told you about Tsiolkovsky's paper. A lot of papers are not
is this really relevant to the question?
This is my person. This is my person, and I'm here also in your association. I'm also a person, and I think it's unfair. It's unfair to me as a person.
Well, what? Because we're not referencing your work?
No, because
I don't understand.
No. Jerry, I don't accuse you that you did not refer to my work.
I'm just asking what your issue is.
My point is that Adriano now is taking up my work and included in his work, and now I think, okay, yes.
No, Marie-Luise, no, it's not true. It's not true, because in the document prepared by Werner Grabdl, the Agos project, there is a reference to Nordung, to the Nordung work.
Yes, yeah, but you had now a lot of pieces, but I had the whole structure from Tsiolkovsky, and Tsiolkovsky is not mentioned, I think, in Werner's work, and I have the whole. I have sorry. I had studied the whole story. The whole story, step by step, from Tsiolkovsky. He was the first, step by step, to the 1960s. This was step by step. The whole. This is yes. It's a whole of stuff to work about it. Not only to mention them. Yes, and I think it's not fair. This is not fair.
Well, I'm sorry, but my view is that the discussion this evening is as whether the basis of Island Zero is could be regarded as a correct way to go forward with that particular project. The discussion is not about the history of space structures, and whether we do or do not mention anyone else's work is, I believe, not really relevant to
Jerry, I'm shocked, I'm shocked. And I think we have something to do with space ethics. We have something to do with humanism, and we have to do something about personal relationships. And
Excuse me for interrupting, but that is nothing to do with Island Zero, which is the subject of this evening. So can we please?
I react to the slide of Adriano. He showed us this slide. Okay.
Yeah, may I suggest that?
Let's say. Let me just say.
Adriano, let me just real quick.
One word.
One word. Basically, Jerry is right. The topic is different, but we found an interesting, intriguing topic, which Mary is saying that she has a very good story there. So why don't we set up a meeting where we can focus on that time period and get it correct, and let her present her version of the research that she's done on the early days of rotating habitats, and let her present that in a SRI meeting such as this. I think that would be very enlightening to many of us to get the actual details and have a good presentation on that.
Jerry, I would be very supportive of that.
Okay, thank you.
But tonight is not the time for discussing it.
I do not want this. I do not want this.
Sorry, let me say just one word, please.
I do not want this.
So this thing that I have, these slides that I have showed today, is only a work in progress. Okay, there are some inaccuracies and so on. I will write a paper Marie-Louise, if you want to be co-author, I would be happy. And of course, your contribute will be mentioned with your name. So I don't see any problems for that. If you have historical contributes about Nordung and all these kind of things, very welcome. We put it.
I had the webinar on the early history of rotating habitats since Tsiolkovsky.
Okay.
It's in
However,
internet.
I repeat, this is a work in progress. It's not a definitive paper. I wanted to anticipate it to you because it's relevant for our discussion. And also I think it's a very good thing to have a complete history of the concept of rotating habitats.
Yeah, if it is possible that I can write this passage about the early history of space rotating systems, okay, then
Okay.
then that's okay.
That's fine.
But not that you took all my work and I have then
Sorry.
Sorry, if I might jump in with a small input. Going back to the mandatory or non-mandatory, I've been thinking about it, and I see now through the discussion that it's absolutely important to have 1G for many reasons. And of course, moreover, in the faraway future, life forms based that evolve from us may perhaps no longer be exactly human as we are. So for them, they might live in N0G. And to wrap up, I just wanted to point out something that I thought was really interesting. Here in Portugal, there was an International Space University session, and there was an Italian astronaut that had been for a long time on ISS. And he gave a long presentation, and he was saying, oh my God, I don't need I don't want my legs. I don't want them anymore. I wish I could just get rid of them. So how fast will we evolve or adapt? Is there going to be a gray area where humans, certain humans might, how fast will be the evolution? Hundreds of years, decades, different subsets of humans. But right. I do see the importance for large amounts of people in outer space. Absolutely 1G, no doubt about it. Nevertheless, one wonders how fast will we change? Maybe. That's all I wanted to give a little input. Thanks.
Just as a quick comment on that, Dinis, whether you need legs or not, if you're living under weightless conditions, then probably not. But if you have any level of gravity, yes, you do need legs.
Yeah.
Can I just say a few words? I really would appreciate it. I mean, I know we all get very emotional and passionate in this group, and being with you for many years, I really would appreciate it if we don't yell at each other or yell. Yes. It's just very disorientating. It's very, it drains us. I don't appreciate that. And I just want to know, maybe there's a way that we can have a neutral moderator when it gets too heated or too passionate, that somebody who's a neutral moderator just to say, okay, we need to stop and calm down or something. But I think all this yelling is not conducive to being, productive. I don't like it myself. I'm feeling very upset right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Susan, if I'm guilty in any way, then I sincerely apologize. But it was just that I was being told over and over again that a certain thing was very important when it is not important at all to this particular discussion this evening. It can be dealt with separately. And Marie-Louise, I had to say that I have only recently been aware that you have done this research in the past. I'd like to see a copy of any paper that you produced. Right? But the fact that you've produced it and you've gone into great detail, I'll stress, is not relevant to the discussion about the role of Islands Zero. What I would add, though, is that I have submitted abstracts for 5 presentations at the SRIC4, and one of them was going to be about the history of space habitats. And I really feel that you would be the more relevant person to give such a presentation rather than me. So I pass that over to you. So if I can now continue about explaining the origin of Island Zero.
Yeah, please.
So Gerard O'Neill originally came up in his first paper published in Physics Today in 1974. He talked about the cylindrical space habitat, which came to be known as the O'Neill cylinder. And it was later that he expanded on the idea of what he called Island 1 as a spherical based habitat. And in The High Frontier, he went into a lot of detail about this. But he deliberately restricted the design of Island 1 in 2 ways. Firstly, it had to cost no more than the equivalent of Apollo. So nobody could say, well, it's a nice idea, but we can't afford zillions of dollars. The other thing was that it was restricted to the technology available at the time, that is, in the mid-1970s. So no one could say, it's a nice idea, but it depends on this and this and this that we haven't invented. So theoretically, it would have been possible, given a go-ahead, to have built Island 1 starting in the late 1970s. But it would need the initial space infrastructure, and lots of stuff would be needed to be launched into space and to set up the facilities on the lunar surface to extract the material which would be used to build it. But that wasn't going to be a problem because it would be provided by the space shuttle, which was expected to launch 50 times a year and drastically bring down the cost of reaching space. Well, of course, that didn't happen, and that's why something like Island 1 never went ahead. So in 2013, I thought, we've made lots of advances in technology since the 1970s. We have improved materials. We have improved new alloys that we didn't have back then. We have new materials that didn't exist then, graphene, carbon nanotubes. And our computing and robotic technology was many orders of magnitude beyond what we had back then. So I reasoned that if we were to start an Island 1 project at that time, we could probably do it more efficiently and cheaper, relatively cheaper, than back in the 70s. So I proposed to the British Interplanetary Society that we set up a technical project to review and update the Island 1 design. And the results of that was a project that ran for several years, and our team of volunteers worked on this and produced designs and work, which eventually became a series of papers which were published in 2 special editions of the BIS journal. So that's a peer-reviewed journal. So lots of outside experts looked at this work and agreed on it. But right at the beginning of the project, I said to the team, first of all, I don't want you to come up with answers. The first thing I want you to do is come up with questions that we will need to answer to achieve our goal. And I then put 2 questions to the team myself. I said, there are lots of designs for space habitats, but all of them assume they will rotate to provide a simulated 1G. And I asked, do we need 1G? What about something less than that? There would be less stress on the structure and therefore less material needed to build it. And if you're talking about a structure using a minimum of 500,000 tons, then even 1/4% less material is significant. I said the other thing is that we wouldn't build an island one from scratch. We would need smaller structure that could be used as living and working quarters for the assembly team. And I came up with the idea of Island 0, and we called it that because Island 1, 2, and 3 get bigger and bigger, and this was going in the other direction, so Island 0. And I came up with this design that would fulfill both of those functions. So a version could be used as living quarters, and we could also have an initial version where we could actually investigate living under different gravity levels. So it would be composed of multiple copies of inflatable structures. And by doing it that way, as opposed to the ISS, where practically every module is different, it'll be a lot cheaper to build. And also, inflatable structures, if they can be compressed or folded or at least made into a smaller volume for launch, you can launch more of them more cheaply. Also, inflatable structures actually provide better radiation shielding than the metal modules on the ISS because you don't get the secondary radiation. Inflatable modules will have anything from 24 different layers upwards. So originally assumed 8 modules, and they would all be joined together. And if they were 15 meters long, that would give a pretty small unit. And then I created a spreadsheet showing the effective G produced depending on the radius, actually I used, and the rotation rate. And at the size that would be, even at 3 RPM, you'd only get 1/3 of a gravity. And yet, if we expanded it, so reckon it to about 200 meter radius, then that would require 82 modules to form a complete ring. And as the other idea was that this should be a low-cost structure, that was completely not possible. So what I decided instead is that we'd keep just the 8 modules, but they would be equally spaced around that diameter. And so I added a connecting tubing between them, which would make it more rigid, more stable. And I initially assumed it would rotate at 2 RPM, but my spreadsheet showed that if you increased it to 3 RPM, you'd only need a radius of 100 meters, which would therefore be cheaper. And the spreadsheet showed that for at 3 RPM, starting at 100 meters, which would give 1 G, for each 10-meter distance towards the center, you would get a reduction of 0.1 G. And so we could have modules that would give 0.9, 0.8, and 0.7 G. Now, the reason I went to that, well, first of all, I assumed at the time, without any knowledge, because we've never actually done this in space, but I assumed that it would work out that the likely resultant G-force to be used would be probably between 0.85 and 0.9, but that's still to be determined. Why did I go down to 0.7 G? Well, because that's what you would get in Island 1. It's a sphere. So the central equatorial axis would provide 1 G, but as you go towards the linear axis, gravity will decrease. And so I calculated that at the inner edge of the 2 big ring windows, you'd have 0.7 G. So I suggested to the team that in a spherical habitat, the living quarters should be around the equatorial area, because that is where people would spend most of their time. And you'd have other buildings, perhaps working areas, moving further out down to 0.7 G. So that's why I had that as my lower figure. I would say that 1 G is not mandatory. It is not a human right. If it was, then we shouldn't be doing anything on the ISS, and we shouldn't even think about going to the moon or Mars, because all of those are less than 1 G.
Do you allow me a small interruption?
Yes.
But
yes.
ISS is for astronautics, not
yes.
for, not for settlers.
I know. Yes, it's not meant to be a permanent settlement. That's okay. I completely accept that. So, as it's only the modules that are effectively in a central axis that would be used for the medical research, the other modules outside could be leased out for other research, for commercial operations, or even for space tourism. Now, I've very recently, just last week, adjusted the layout of these modules, and that's based on an idea put forward by Bernard Foying. So instead of having them all equally spaced, we have 2 groups of 5 linked modules on each side. And that makes it a lot easier to obviously move people and equipment between the modules. And it also means that whereas I had a lift shaft vertically and another one at 90 degrees, that cross one is not needed. So it will reduce the cost. The whole thing about this is that we don't know what will be a good G value for long-term living in space. There have been doubts, worries, whatever, that if people are living under a lower gravity, then they won't be able to come back from Earth to Earth. Well, if I don't think that going down, say, to 0.85 G is going to cause any problem. If people can live for a year in weightlessness and still return to Earth, perhaps taking some time to reacclimatize. I don't think that a small reduction like 0.15 G is going to be a major problem. And it also does mean that not only could they come back, but people from Earth could go up there, so you would have a tourism exchange. And people coming up there would know, right? If you have something like Island 1, or no, let's take the cylinder, okay, where the gravity is the same throughout all the land areas. That if people knew that they were going up to this cylinder, which was going to have 0.85 G, right, they would obviously know that in advance. And they would know that despite living under that level, even for a year or more, that they could come back to Earth without any problem. Whereas on the Moon or Mars, where you can't do anything about the gravity levels, which are 1/6 and 1/3 of that of Earth, their inhabitants are going to have serious medical issues over a long period. In fact, it's been suggested that particularly on the Moon, where the skeletal structure will weaken, the result will be that probably any human birth will have to be done by caesarean section, because both the mother and the baby's bone structure will be too fragile for a normal birth. So that's an indication of how drastic the medical situation will be. So that was the origin of Island 0 and the purpose of it. It's not actually to validate O'Neill's designs. It is to act as a living and working space when we come to build large habitats, and initially to be a medical research laboratory. It does have another advantage, which is that in the central hub, of course, you will have weightlessness. Now, the middle section of the central hub obviously will be fixed to the rest of the structure and will rotate with it, but the adjoining modules will effectively counter-rotate. The result is that, seen from the outside, they will not be rotating at all while the rest of the structure goes round. So that's where we would have the solar panels and the waste heat radiators. It also means that at the end of the central hub on each end, that's where spacecraft could come to dock without having to spin round. And it would be just like docking with the ISS. So you don't just have to dock at the end, but you can do it at 90 degrees to an airlock module. So, right, I'll stop there for now. I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Very, very quickly, because I have spoken even too much today. However, two things. The first one, the answer to your first question, do we really need 1G? The answer is yes. O'Neill gave us this answer some very years ago, very clearly for several reasons. So the answer is yes, we need 1G. Then that doesn't prevent to make other levels for particular needs, of course. So first thing. Second thing, you are, in my opinion, you are too much concerned about the cost. Why do you have to make this cent calculation about the cost? We are talking about a project that, however, will cost a lot of billions. And so I don't understand why we should be so concerned about the cost.
Okay.
And for sure, the cost is not a reason to renounce to have a 1G ring, in my opinion. Okay.
No,
I see that others.
I would agree that isn't a reason to do it. It would just be I believe, a benefit. If it costs, say, 100 billion, and if you can save 5 billion, then that is a reasonable amount. But
why? But why? Why you have to be so greedy to
I'm
say?
not being greedy. I mean, if you have any large major project, wouldn't you want to save costs where you can? Anyway, it's the amount would that's a long-term thing to be decided. The major thing, as I said, is that there would be less stress on the structure. So having less material is a consequence of that. But it's the reduction in stress that I think would be the real benefit.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate Adriano's point of view very much. It's idealistic, but there's the objective there is very clear. But I would say again, as Jerry mentions, cost. Even if the thing costs 5 billion or something, the cost is going to be calculated. They're going to work out how it's going to be paid for by, who's paying for it and what people are paying for. There will be a certain economic value in having this facility, and there will be a certain number of users of a certain type who'll be prepared to pay a certain amount of money for a certain level of gravity, operational gravity laboratory or facility. And there may not always be that they especially want one gravity condition. So that's a kind of something you don't really know about until you get the economic flows coming in and you see what the users are. And in a way, the first models might be designed to accommodate those that are prepared to pay for it. That was what I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, so there is obviously a difference between looking at the future cost of something of the size of Island 1 as opposed to Island 0. I mean, Island 0, I said that by being made of multiple copies of just a few modules, then obviously the production will be cheaper. But that's not the reason for doing it that way. It was really that it'll be easier to manufacture rather than having to design each module and develop it separately.
No, to have a standard modules is a great solution. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So I've said that we can investigate different gravity levels, and I don't think anybody can suggest what the results of that will be. Right. The unique advantage of Island 0 is that it will provide these different levels of gravity simultaneously. So we can carry out the same research in each of the modules and compare the results. And seeing as we have never lived in space on anything other than weightlessness, other than on the surface of the moon, which is a completely different situation, the idea is to do the research and find an answer. So I'm not, well, I said my initial assumption was what it might turn out to be. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no proof or any way of calculating what the result might be. But this is why I'm suggesting that we do the research. I have to say that this idea has been accepted by the International Astronautical Federation, who approved a paper that I proposed for them. Also, inflatable structures use layers of webbing made from Vectran, right, which is a fiber that is 5 times stronger than steel, and it is stronger than Kevlar. I have been in contact with Curare, which is the American company that makes this fiber, and they distribute to a few other companies that produce webbing for it. One or two of which actually produces webbing which is used in inflatable space structures. And their manager of international marketing said that Island Zero is the best space structure that he has ever seen, which is a magnificent statement of support. And so I use that in my literature. Also, I should say, in 1977, I met Gerard O'Neill when he came to the UK and gave a presentation at the British Interplanetary Society. And I was one of a small group that took him off for a meal afterwards and talked to him in more detail about his vision. I am also in contact with Tasha O'Neill, his widow, who supports the Island Zero design. And that, again, is a great help. And I would just emphasize that unless we build an Island Zero and do this medical research, nobody can say for certain, one way or the other, what is possible and what its research might find out. We need to carry out the experiment. And if it turns out that anything less than 1G on a long-term basis will be a problem, then so be it. But we don't know, and so therefore I don't think we can say with certainty that that's the case.
I would
have some
small clarification,
comments.
please.
Or, okay.
Werner.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. May I make some comments? First of all, I strongly have the opinion of Adriano that 1G in the long run must be mandatory. On the other hand, I appreciate very much the ideas of Jerry. I have thought about this 1 year ago, and I would show you, if you allow me this, if I can share the screen. I have designed a minimum station with simulated gravity and of low cost. If I may share the screen, I hope I can show you this. This is once again the always okay. Once again, can you see that?
Oh, yes.
Yes, you can see that. Okay.
Yes. So that's another way of doing it without the outer connecting.
Without the outer ring.
Yes.
And I have just only 4 of those habitat modules. And by changing the rotation rate, you can also study the influence of some different G levels, of course.
Yes.
And I think this is, of course, one of the cheapest models of your idea, Jerry.
How
Isn't
big
it?
is that? How big is that?
I
Presume.
So
Well,
it had a
in-
radius of 100 meters.
Right, so
A
it's
radius
3.5
of
bigger.
100 meters.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
3.5
like yours,
bigger.
Cherry.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes. So the difference with Island Zero is that I had gone for an arrangement where you wouldn't need to have to speed it up or slow it down to get different gravity levels.
Yeah.
You have them simultaneously, and as I said, perform the same medical research and compare the results immediately.
Yes, of course, you can add additional cylinders
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
That's the same, and it will be the same output.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. So I think this is, the cheapest one of all possible designs to this problem.
Probably.
Okay.
Yes. I just wasn't sure about the stability.
Well, the stability, I think, is
I know other people can do the calculation and they say yes or no.
Yes, what you're seeing here in green are steel ropes.
Yep.
So I think it would be enough stability there.
The other thing is that because I had 8 and the central hub, people couldn't go from the central hub to the outer ones for all 8.
Yes, I have just 4, of course.
Yes.
I have just 4.
So with mine, the other advantage of the other connecting tubes is that you could go to one
you
of
could
these
go like this. You could go like this.
and then walk along this tubing,
Yeah.
which was going to be 2.4 meters in diameter.
Yes, I know.
And reach the other modules. But now, as I've said, having them grouped 5 at one end and 5 at the other end gets away with all that.
You can also make the same thing here, of course, on every edge, of course.
Yes.
And I think this is the cheapest model with the lowest amount of material.
I think I'd agree with that.
Okay. So this is what I wanted to show you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Werner.
Would you like me to show some diagrams, Adriano?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I think someone else had a comment they wanted to make first. No, maybe not. Okay. Right. Let's.
Sorry. Okay. No, it's just a quick clarification. I believe lunar gravity is doable on Island Zero design, right?
Yes, but what I was looking for is what would be the level for long-term living for a large population, and lunar gravity wouldn't be suitable for that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
No, but it can be useful for training, but for astronauts.
Oh yeah, yes, certainly you could do that.
Not for settlers, but for training. Yeah, of course, for astronauts training could be useful.
Oops. Okay. No, not there. In diagrams. Oh heck. Sorry, I just moved these in there recently, and I'm not quite sure. I must have put them in another folder. Hold on. Let's. Oh, stop it. Right. Research for 1 dot. PNG. image. And then, here we go. Where are they? Ah, Island Zero diagrams. Right.
That's not your last.
Okay, so that was what I had originally.
Yeah.
So the 4 modules each side are for the medical research. You have 3 others on each side separately, which can be leased out and therefore provide some income. And there's 2 lift shafts, and they use not a cable supported container, but a rack and pinion lift. So gravity is irrelevant. It can just move up and down. So this is the new version with the 5 modules at each end, and we don't need the lift going across the center. So here's one of the modules where the upper section is the living quarters. So we have 4 bedrooms plus a shower room and a toilet, and downstairs I've left empty other than some windows because that's where whatever work is going to be carried out. And down the center is the lift shaft that connects to the central hub. This is plan view, and you can see the lift shaft in the middle, which is why the bedroom around it has to be a different configuration. And to move from the lower section to the upper, rather than have ladders, I had the idea of a spiral staircase, which is fitted to the inside of the outer wall. And this is an image that I produced of the former version of Island Zero with the 8 modules around the outside, and I now need to produce an updated version. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was a very good discussion. And yeah, probably we have not find an agreement on a unique position, but I think that, however, it is very much important that the 1G ring is included in the design.
Well, yes, because apart from anything else, you need that for control.
And I just want to add
yes.
that I don't think that a research could determine what is the best level of gravity. I mean, people are very different. So
yes, indeed,
we should have a champion of people to experiment very, very large, and that is, of course, not possible with
in fact, as you say that, and it makes me think that we should probably choose people of similar physical properties to be involved in this. Otherwise, you're comparing apples and pears. Yeah.
Average
yes.
person. Yes.
Yes.
However, let me say that, however, I want to be free to choose to live at 1G or I don't know, because I could, let me say, I'm old, okay, I'm near 80. Well, I decide that I want to live my last years at a lower gravity because I don't have such a big future. I will never go back to Earth. Then I choose to live at 0.7 or
Yes.
even less. Okay.
So
But
in that case,
I also,
sorry, go on.
I also, if I am a younger person, let me say 30 or 35 or less, then I want to have the freedom to choose to live at 1G, to raise my children at 1G and so on. So is a matter of freedom. I don't want that a research scientific research determine what is the best G level for me.
Okay,
that doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, so that was on the basis that a large space habitat would have the same gravity level across all of its surface.
So that, but
Whereas if you have a spherical habitat, then you would get different levels, and you could have
move to
you could have housing
yes, I know,
for elderly people who want a lower gravity level,
yes,
more towards the
they can
central
move.
axis.
Yes, that is.
Yes, it would be a benefit.
However, this reason, the real reason why I don't like your question, do we really need 1G?
Yes,
is because of freedom, because of freedom of choice. It's like when now I'm making a comparison that it's maybe is not appropriate. However, some times ago in Italy, we didn't have the divorce. Okay. And there was
yes,
a civil fight, let me say, in order to have a referendum and to establish the law possibility to divorce. There were, of course, a lot of people that were oriented with a religious mind and so on that didn't want that thing. They were against. But if there is a freedom, one more freedom, I will not oblige you to divorce, but I will be free to choose it.
Yes,
if I need it. So it's a problem. Is an issue of democracy of freedom.
So, all right. So suppose it should turn out, for what for reasons that say 0.85 or 0.9 G is going to be used for a large scale habitat. Fine. Anybody at all who does not want to live under that G level can stay on Earth. Or if they are born on that habitat and they don't want to live under that, they can return to Earth.
I don't agree because if I want to go living in space, and I don't have to choose between okay, I want 1G, then I will stay on Earth. That's not a
okay. How about this?
Correct.
That we could have. I mean, the idea is that you'd have lots of these large scale habitats. So if say most of them use 0.9 G or whatever, there's no reason whatsoever why you couldn't have one or more that used 1G. So people who wanted to live in space could still do so under 1G. And they'd have that choice.
Yeah, but let me say, now I will give you a provocation.
Okay.
We might also have some modules. This came up in a discussion with Alberto a couple of days ago. We could maybe even have some modules that are more peripherals in order to have a 1.1 or 1.2.
Yes.
In order to train for sport, just to say. So it's very let me say it should be a free choice where one wants to live, and if I choose to live at less than 1G, I know that I have made a choice for my future.
Yes.
And I'm free to do it. And I'm free. Why I'm free? Because I know what I'm doing. Nobody decided that the optimal G level was different from the Earth one.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
and also consider that I learned today, this is another thing, that on Earth there are areas with different gravity. Antarctic, for instance.
Yes. It's not that much different, though.
It has a lower gravity, actually. And the level of the sea is lower for that. Well, I'm not sure that I understood
because
exactly.
the Earth's equator is obviously wider than the distance pole to pole. So
because the Earth is not really spheric, you know.
No.
It's more or less.
But it's spherical to within 1/3 of 1%, which is pretty round.
Okay. However, good.
Sorry, hello. Just a small comment, if I might.
Yeah.
On my free time, I keep studying designs of penal colonies in outer space, out of the political science implications. There's the Belters from the science fiction Expanse. There's all kinds of things. And some people have designed some horrific things. And actually, some of them, prisons in outer space, are designed so that it will be banned forever. Like the people then would have a real big trouble coming back to Earth ever. Because they'd be so well. Anyways, just a little comment, and to comment again, I like the idea of the freedom to come back to Earth.
Yes,
it's important. Anyways, that's all.
Yeah. And do you remember that poor guy that was tortured by Avasarala? The poor guy that was hanged to the.
Yes, it's based upon things that happen on Earth. Anyways, yeah. It's a deeper issue. It's a deeper issue, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Just looking in the chat, Dennis, you'd asked about whether Island Zero could allow the existence of lunar gravity level, and I have answered that. Werner said yes, you could do by changing the rotation velocity. I wouldn't want to speed it up or slow it down. I would just simply say have modules much closer to the center. And in fact, it was Bernard who actually had an AI generated image of a ring structure which had 3 rings of Earth, Mars, and Moon gravity.
Yes.
Although the distances that it used, the diameters, were actually not accurate, as I checked on my spreadsheet. But there is another way that you could achieve different G levels, and that is have complete rings all of the same diameter, but parallel to each other and rotating at different rates.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes. That's interesting. Okay, friends, we could keep on discussing the whole night, I think, because it's very fascinating. Very much fascinating, this the subject. However, I will go ahead developing my paper, and everyone who wants to co-author is very much welcome.
Yeah.
And okay, so I think we can close maybe.
And as I said earlier, I think Marie-Luise is probably the ideal person to give a presentation at our Congress on the history of space habitats. Oh, and just one other thing. She made a point about the date of Herman Nuttung's original book, saying it was actually 1928, not 1929. Ha ha! it's not as straightforward as that. It was actually published in late 1928, but the publication date in it said 1929. So you take one or the other.
Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. And see you next time. Ad Astra. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank all of you for